All right, peeps. Shit, I haven't done a video in a few days. Getting a bit lazy on this stuff, I gotta say. I'm just too busy living my life. Anyway, I am now back in London in my beautiful apartment here, as you can see behind me. In the centre of London. I am 3 minutes away from Hyde Park, which means I can go for a jog in Hyde Park. Bought this apartment a couple of years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago. Stayed in it in the summer. Tried to give London a shot and then said to myself, I don't really belong in this city, to be completely honest. I know I was born and raised here, but I'm kind of bored of it. I want to move on. And really, the weather's absolutely shit, as always. As you can see, standard colour of the sky in London is grey. And I was just tired of the grey sky. So it's time to move on. Anyway, I will be off to Serbia, Belgrade, I believe, is my next move. This whole Brexit thing's really screwed me in terms of the British passport. Now I'm having to jump between Schengen and non-Schengen in the Eurozone, and I'm also looking for a European passport at some stage. I'm actually going to apply for the digital nomad visa for Romania because I enjoyed Romania that much. I thought it was fantastic, mate. Like, cheap prices, amazing girls. I met a really good girl out there that I'd like to see again and like to try and build upon that with. Got some good friends out there, just good value for money, good parties, really good vibe in general. So that's my motive now, is to try and get the nomad visa for Romania. Like, you know, the thing with London is it's somewhere that you want to come and visit once in your life, for sure. Like, you want to come and see this city because it's so grandiose, it's so beautiful, there's so much going on, you know, and the vibe in London in the summer is absolutely epic, right? London in the summer is elite, is absolutely elite. Highly recommended you visit London in the summer. Outside of the summer, London kind of sucks. It's cold, it's grey. I'll be honest with you, in general, the girls are pretty ugly around here. British women are not known to be good looking. British women are pretty ugly, pretty overweight, pretty vulgar. Obviously, we've got some crackers, obviously, you know, like when you hang around in the top areas, Notting Hill, Kings Road, Chelsea, Fulham, Parsons Green I was at yesterday. Those areas are top notch for women. And then you've got all the other places in London, which really is very hit and miss in terms of girls. You get a lot of average looking girls, and I'm not about hanging around in average places with average looking people. Sorry, it might sound pretentious, but life's fucking short. And you know, I'm in a certain echelon of society, so I want to hang around hot girls all the time. Nothing wrong with that. So call me pretentious. Don't give a shit what you think. Anyway, so if you've never been to London, you should definitely come here during the summer. This is the kind of city that you'd want to live in if you have a high-paying job in banking or law. Otherwise, for a digital nomad like me, it doesn't actually make sense to live in London. Why would a digital nomad who can live anywhere in the world live in London? Pay the expensive rental prices, have shit weather, and be around a bunch of ugly girls? Doesn't really make sense unless you've got a business here, you know, unless you've got a business. Say, for example, you've got, I don't know, a barbershop, you know, again, you're a digital nomad, but you've got offices in London. Cool, makes sense for you to be here, right? You've got meetings in London. It's a great place to raise capital. It's like, you know, it's one of the financial hubs of the world. It's one of the financial hubs of Europe, even though Paris and Frankfurt are trying to overtake London in that sense. But I don't quite think they're there just yet. But anyway, post-Brexit, London's definitely been suffering. So in conclusion, really, you want to be coming to a city like London. It's absolutely gorgeous. It looks like no other. It's so it's so beautiful. There's so many different areas in London. And when the weather's good, this city's unbeatable. Absolutely unbeatable. It's super, super epic. But be prepared to pay super high prices. It's expensive. Rent is really expensive. Property's very expensive. Same shit as New York City. New York City, also expensive. Also the rat race. But what I will say is New York actually has better looking girls. That's my opinion, and my opinion's usually spot on. New York actually does have hotter girls and more friendly, because they're Americans, so they're just more down for a conversation. Londoners are not really so much down for a conversation unless you're at the pub or unless you're at a bar having a drink. They can be friendly, but only once they've had a few drinks in them to loosen them up. In general, Londoners are quite uptight and are in a rush, and it's the rat race, so people don't exactly want to talk to you. But if you approach people in the right way, for example, I was going for a run the other day, and I stopped and spoke to two attractive women, just having a casual conversation. One of them gave me their Instagram, the other one gave me her number, and it was all good. And from there, you can kind of conversate. You know, my father once said to me, it's all about how you approach someone, right? Your approach is everything. So you could be in the most unfriendly city in the world. You know, you could be in Moscow, for God's sake. I don't count London as a very friendly city, to be completely honest. Not when you've been to America and spent plenty of time there. But with the right approach, if you say the right things and you come across like a gentleman, you're not a creep, and you're also dressed well and you're gentlemanly and you're smart and you're well groomed, then women will give you the time of day if you approach correctly and nicely and politely. Okay, so that's pretty key. So I'm not going to have a problem around here. But again, I've got the experience and I'm well trained and I've been doing this shit my whole life. You know, I'm not a kid. So that's one big thing I like about London. Like, people are approachable if you approach them in the right way. One thing I will say is that this city is quite racist. You will see it's very multicultural, fine, but there's a classist system in Europe and in the UK. I mean, we've got a monarchy, for God's sake. You know, we got a king, a prince, we had a queen. God bless her soul, rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. So we have a class system, right? So actually what you'll notice is that there'll be certain places where non-white people are not as welcome, even though they are like welcome, but they're not really welcome. You know? So there is definitely a level of racism, definitely. But it's not in your face. There's undertones of racism, right? So even me, for example, who's not like 100% white, you know, I've got other mixes in my background. My parents are from different countries around the world. You know, I'm not English, but I am British. So even me, to certain types of women, and certain types of people, they'd be like, oh, well, hold on a minute, like, he's not British, you know, like, oh, wait a minute, you're not British, like, where are you from, sort of thing, you know? And actually, it does play to your disadvantage in certain scenarios, because what then happens is that the girl will think, oh, well, can I really bring, like, a non-white guy to my house? You know, my family with all this heritage, my grandfather was a lord and was an earl, and we've all got these kind of, like, family crest rings on our finger. And, you know, like, oh, we come from this grandiose old English family. Should I really bring this non-white guy, this non-English guy into my family? Will they really accept that? That shit certainly goes down. And a great example of that, I was talking to my friends, was Professor Green and Millie Mackintosh, I think her name was. So Professor Green was a bit of an edgy guy, you know, like a bit of a rude boy from Hackney. And Millie Mackintosh was this posh girl from Chelsea. And they had a relationship for a short while, and then inevitably they broke off. And Millie Mackintosh is now with Hugo from Made in Chelsea because that's just how this shit works. Because she comes from some white family who are probably giving her a hard time for being with Professor Green, even though Professor Green's got a lot of talent. And now she's just with some wealthy white rich boy from Chelsea whose family also makes sense for her because it just fits the bill and it's just culturally appropriate. So unfortunately, my friends, that's how shit works in this world, and especially in this part of the world. In the UK, in Europe, there is a class-based system. There are undertones of racism. I haven't ever really been subject to it directly, but indirectly, I kind of have felt subject to it at times. Indirectly, even though I'm well-spoken, I went to a very good school, I'm educated, I'm wealthy, I have everything some other little white boy has in these areas, you know, even though his father made money. Who cares about whether your father made money? What have you done? That's like the more important question, mate. Who cares about what your dad done or what your family's done? What have you done should be the real question. So people are still very much fixated with this idea of family wealth and, oh, my father and my family and, oh, my great-granddad. And I don't give a fuck what your great-granddad did, bro. Fuck your great-granddad. He's dead. What have you done? That's more important. Like, yeah, sure, my dad did this, my dad did that, my great-grandfather was that, my great-great-grandfather fought in the war. Cool, all well and good, but stop living off that. Like, what have you done? So, what I like about America and why I moved there and why I got a green card, it's more of a meritocracy, you know? I mean, obviously there are levels of nepotism that occur, but it's more of a meritocracy in the sense that, you know, a basketball player, you know, a tall black basketball player will hang around with a senator's daughter and it will be fine because, you know, he's deemed successful and he's the man. Whereas you're not really going to see a footballer here hang out with go out with the Prime Minister's daughter. That doesn't happen. The Prime Minister's daughter will go out with a rugby player, not with a football player, because rugby's deemed a more classy sport compared to football, which is deemed a bit of a working class man's sport. Do you now see the difference in how people see the class-based system? And a lot of you are delusional, will say, no, that's not true. I know someone that goes out with a black guy in London. Yeah, obviously there are rare anomalies, but I'm telling you, that shit is rare because in general, that's what I notice. And I know that because I've lived in this city and I've traveled around the world, probably more than a lot of people that I've ever met. I don't know many people that have traveled as freely as I have. And that teaches you a lot of things about life. So that's the difference really between sort of London and Europe and the US. And so, you know, Europe's still very much like a class-based system, and that will disintegrate over time. But I do love America because it's a meritocracy. You know, it's like if you're successful and whatever, you could be an immigrant, you could be from any country, but you've done well, you're wealthy and you're good looking and you're smart, people will respect that. And, you know, you could land some white girl from Nashville. But again, obviously there are racists in America, of course. You're probably going to have a hard time landing some white girl from Mississippi who comes from some farm town, and her parents are going to be like, yo, who the hell is that? You know, like, well, why are you with where's this guy from? He's Italian, he's this, he's that. You know, you shouldn't be with that. You need to be with a nice thoroughbred American. So of course there's racism in America as well. Of course there is. But not so much in the big cities. LA, New York, Miami. I don't notice any much elements of racism. I think they're quite multicultural places. As with London, of course, London's also multicultural. However, there are definitely undertones of racism in London. And I definitely feel and see that more so in this city than I do in any of the big cities in America. So anyway, that's my summary really of London. For now, and this is sort of in my time period in my life, this is how I feel about this place. I have a banging setup here. I got a sick apartment. If I wanted to live here, I'd probably buy a Ferrari and whip it round and live in this apartment and have a cool gym and, you know, try and build an asset management firm out of London. And, you know, it's all very possible, and probably have a cute girlfriend. But I just don't want it. I think the weather's shit here. I mean, I think this weather's just not good enough. I'm freezing my ass off at the pub last night. You know, it was 20 degrees and all these, you know, everyone's out standing outside a pub, and then the sun goes down and I was freezing for 3 hours. And I'm like, I have enough money to not have to deal with this bullshit. Just too cold. And I like, you know, I've got a nice body. So I want my body to be out. I want people to see my body. I want to be at pool parties. I want to run with my top off. I want to experience that because I have the assets. Why wouldn't I utilize my assets? You know, so like, fuck that. Like in Miami, when I jog with my top off, I feel like the king. It just is so beautiful in that town, you know, and you can really show off who you are in those sorts of places and your assets and what you have. You know, if you're built and you work out and you look good, what's the point in living in like fucking UK? No one ever sees it anyway. You're bloody, all your clothes are on all year round. So I quite like that. That's why I like the beach life. That's why I like kind of, you know, flashing my body, you know, call me a flashy show off, but whatever, I've got a good body, so I'm going to show it off. That's just how I feel. So that's why I wouldn't really live in the UK. I just think the weather's not really that good compared to the rest of Europe. There are places in the weather in Eastern Europe. The weather at the moment across most of Europe is actually fantastic. In London, the weather sucks. So there you go. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my quick summary of London. That's where I am now. In a week's time, I plan to go to Belgrade, Serbia, because I need to go to a non-Schengen European country and spend a bit of time there. And then the plan is to go back to Romania in July and August. So I'll keep up the videos and I'll keep up my shorts on Instagram. My team took a little bit of a break. And now that we should get back on it. So hopefully I can do that. And also always willing to answer your questions. And, you know, a couple of the people have reached out to me. Actually, a couple of my subscribers have reached out to me on Instagram and they want to meet me in London. I love that. That's really great. Like, please keep reaching out. You know, to the people that support me, I love that. That's great. I'll also support you and help you out with whatever you're sort of dealing with. And to the others that sort of just drop stupid little hate messages and silly comments, I'm actually not going to delete them. I find them quite hilarious reading that kind of stuff. And I actually quite like leaving it there just to show that I'm not, you know, like, you know, we all get good messages. We all get hate messages. It's just part of being on social media. It's just part of putting yourself out there. So I'm not going to delete all that stuff because I find it pretty hilarious. Bunch of keyboard warriors, you know, people that just like, I've never written a hate comment on social media because I just don't feel the need to, you know, but most keyboard warriors who are insecure, who don't have a good life, will probably just sit there and like put some hate bullshit on your social media, but who cares, you know, forget about them. If I was going to stop posting because of a couple of hate messages, I would be the loser. You know, I would be the one who got affected and who would have lost the battle. So we're not going to have that. So put your message out there, keep going. And yeah, it's good to finally get some of these videos done. It's been way too long since I posted. Peace out, chaps.